The Stone Zone with legendary Republican strategist and political icon and pundit Roger Stone. Stone has served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents. He is a New York Times best-selling author and a longtime friend and advisor of President Donald Trump.
Stone.
As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before the prestigious Oxford Political Union and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Stone has become a pop culture icon. And now, here's your host, Roger Stone.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm John Tabacco. No, not quite Roger Stone, but it is a pleasure to be here. Roger's absence will be difficult to overcome, but I will certainly do my best. I'm John Tabacco. We got lots to talk about today. Just getting up to speed on what's happening out there. And we got a lot to talk about. The drone craze is everywhere, and Elon Musk is calling out the Securities and Exchange Commission, and Trump's nominees keep on coming, and I feel like it's the hits just keep on coming with his nominees. And a little later on in the show, I host a show on Newsmax called The Wise Guys. And a little later on today's show, Cara Castronuova, champion boxer and investigative journalist, is going to be joining us, as well as Hunter Gaylor, the host of The American Wallet, Wall Street Capital. So we got a lot to talk about. But Roger, in his inimitable way, appeared on Newsmax, and he wanted you, and I want you, to see this. Here's Roger's interview on Newsmax.
I want to know what you make of some of the hesitation among Republicans to vote for people specifically like Pete Hegseth.
Well, unfortunately, the real divide in Washington is not between Republicans and Democrats. It's between the reform-minded populist outsider, Donald Trump, who already had an incredibly successful first term as president, bringing reform, and it's an entrenched Washington establishment seeking to resist it. Any Republican senator who misreads the results of the last election, the sweeping victory, the decisive mandate won by Donald Trump, votes against the president's nominees at their own folly, to their own damage. It's interesting. The Democrats only had 50 votes in the Senate when Biden was elected president. Every one of his cabinet members was approved with bipartisan support, but that doesn't happen for Donald Trump. And now, if you're a Republican senator, say in South Dakota or Oklahoma, and you are thinking about voting against one of these great nominees, all of whom are extraordinarily qualified, you're endangering your future in public office in a future Republican primary, in my opinion.
All right, well, welcome back. Roger, as you know, he doesn't hold back, and he's calling it like he sees it. And I think, particularly any Republicans out there who are flapping their lips about Pete Hegseth or any of the other nominees, I would say take a step back. Namaste. You know what namaste means? Like, stay cool, everyone, because, a couple of months ago, we were just praying Trump would win, that there would be no shenanigans in the elections, and win or lose, it would be a mandate, and everyone could accept the results of the election. All of that happened. Pretty much everyone out there, anyone who's not agreeing with Donald Trump's picks on the Republican side, they probably would have agreed to let him take Mickey Mouse and Ronald McDonald into the cabinet if he won a couple of months ago. So stop getting greedy. Let's give Trump full reign. Last time he took advice from people and he kept, hangers on like John Bolton and others. And we saw what happens there. So, what I say is lay off all Trump's nominees. If you're a Republican, and even some of you Democrats out there, deep down you voted. Deep down you wanted to see a change in America. So let the guy get his people in place. That's what I would say. Shortly in this hour, Cara Castronuova is going to join us. And Cara is for starters, she was a champion boxer, 2-time Golden Glove champion boxer. And as well as that, she's a on-air personality. She's a physical fitness trainer. And she's probably the greatest January 6th investigative reporter of anyone out there. And a lot of other people kind of pick up on her stories and then make like they're their stories. But I've been right shoulder to shoulder with her on my Newsmax show and following every single thing she's ever written. We've covered a number of cases. She's covered way more than me. But never gave up, never surrendered. And there's new news coming out now that, oh boy, maybe we did have some confidential human sources, but we pinky promise and swear that none of them were staged out of a field office or anything like that. Come on. We know what's happening. And Christopher Wray and others from the FBI and the intelligence community and so forth have gone out there and said that they had no confidential human sources, they had no agents. And there's ways out there also that the feds work with people, but they don't necessarily put them on as, an agent, as charged by, a field office, and they're kind of like an off the books person, So what we know now is there was a lot of them, and a lot of the stuff Cara reported years ago, people were saying she was crazy. As it turns out, she may be. But not on this topic. So hopefully in a little bit, Cara Castronuova is going to join us. And a little later on, I want to start talking about the economy and that stuff. But, President Trump's nominees are kind of like doing the whole beauty pageant thing and going around and trying to show senators and stuff, just like, how impressive they are and stuff, which most of them are. They wouldn't be in this position. But I have some video here of Jason Miller, and he's talking about how Trump's nominees are showing the senators just how impressive they are.
I think that Pete Hegseth is right now on the path to be confirmed. Same thing with Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. and Kash Patel and everybody else. And the reason is what we knew all along is once we get these nominees in front of the senators for their one-on-one meetings, that they would knock their socks off. They would show just how impressive they are and exactly why President Trump picked them in the first place. That was our strategy. And so as we've seen, now we're 2-3 weeks into this process. A whole bunch of nominees have their individual senator meetings this next week. And then, of course, many of the full Senate committee hearings, the confirmation hearings, will start then in January, some before the president is inaugurated on the 20th, and some will be afterwards. The senators are going to have their chance to kick the tires. That's their right, to the individual meetings as well as the hearings. And it's very clear that these folks that are coming in are bringing such an expertise level that they can affect the change that President Trump wants to bring right away on day one. So we knew all along, get them to their meetings, make sure that people know here is the support level behind them, the broad coalition. In fact, the polling numbers for some of these guys are really, really good. And this is what people want to see. They don't want to see run-of-the-mill stock politicians. They want to see people like RFK Jr., who's going to come in and talk about things such as make America healthy again.
Well, that's, if you ask me, and I'm big on the economy. We're going to talk about that in a little while. Trump rang the bell on the New York Stock Exchange, which all my boys, I worked down on Wall Street, still do for like 30 years now. And I've been on that floor many times. Many of the good men and women down there come from my hometown, Staten Island, New York. And quite frankly, I think it was a good signal to the world to see Trump out there at the New York Stock Exchange. And, when you see Trump ringing the bell and you see kind of the New York Stock Exchange is like, that's like the ground zero of U.S. free market capitalism. A little later on, we're going to talk about, with Hunter Gila, we're going to talk about the Securities and Exchange Commission and how they do nothing but support incumbents and they don't help like regular retail investors. We'll be talking about that later. But the New York Stock Exchange is a symbol of capitalism across the globe, like none other. There are many exchanges in the World Federation of Exchanges. Not a single one of them can compare, and combined, they probably can't. So when you see Trump in there, to me, it was like a conquering emperor actually ringing the bell. Let's get this thing started, And one of the reasons the sentiment is so high is, Trump's already come out and said we got to destroy this thing called BRICS. So, for those of you out there who don't follow this stuff, BRICS is a new currency, a digital currency, and it's basically formed by BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So, the whole crew there, they're not exactly our buddies. And the reason they formed this currency coalition is because when they get sanctioned and stuff by the USA, they can still transact amongst each other. So basically what they're doing is they're trying to create something that they can engage in commerce with and not have to use USD. So they don't have to, they can escape us. Problem with that is the US dollar makes up most of the World Bank, the International Money Fund, most of the reserves, our cash reserves. So they want to move the rest of the world away from whatever percentage we have right now. I think we're about almost 60%, 50 some odd percent of the basket of currencies, the reserve currency. So Trump said, no, you're not going to have the BRICS anymore. You're not going to try to weaken the dollar. You're not going to try to get around us when we want to sanction you. You're not going to use another dollar. Okay, we're strengthening the dollar here. So Trump took aim at that. Said, hey, I'll put 100% tariffs on you guys if you want to keep playing around with this BRICS thing. So Scott Bessent, new Treasury Secretary, he's got a lot of global experience. He was in the business of finding overvalued currencies and replacing them to their real value. So I think he has every piece of the skill set, in my view, to basically strangle and starve the BRICS off. And I think they may go voluntarily because they don't want Trump hitting them with 100% tariffs. So we'll talk about that stuff a little bit more. But I believe right here on the StoneZONE, we have a little footage of Trump ringing that bell yesterday right here.
The incoming leader of the free world is going to ring the bell here in about 20 seconds, an historic moment at the New York Stock Exchange as we get this opening bell rung by the President-elect, Donald Trump.
Now, you might think, all right, do we really need to listen to the whole 55 seconds of the New York Stock Exchange cheering for Donald Trump? Yes, you do. To my earlier point, this is our hero. This is our champion returning to the victorious place he once was and saying, we're getting this economy going again. And the reception was unbelievable. And we wanted to play long for you, because the fake news will never show you any of that crap. They'll show you like 5-10 seconds. And those are people who are not necessarily all, red MAGA hat wearing folks, but they were all cheering and they were all chanting. And cheering and chanting is what happens everywhere she goes. She is often cited somewhere around me, but outshining me in every way on our show, Wise Guys on Newsmax. She's a two-time Golden Glove champion. I call her the resident knockout artist, and probably the greatest source of January 6th investigative reporters in the world. So I want to welcome in now Cara Castronuova.
Hi, John.
Hello, Cara. How are you? I love your backdrop.
I know, person of the year. It's Trump.
It almost looks like you're the person of the year. I like it. So, Cara, thanks for joining us. I want to talk about a few things, and from what I understand, you've nicely agreed to spend some more time than just the January 6th segment with us, and Roger's very thankful for that. He actually sent me a really warm note. I asked him if Cara could stay a little longer, and he said she's way better than you and way better looking than you. So I suggest you get her for as long as you can. So thanks for joining us, Cara.
Thank you. No problem. I love Roger, so I would do anything for him, not to mention you. So.
No, thank you. Well, look, I'm sure you heard my introduction, and I think most of the people that tune into the Stone Zone and pay attention to this stuff know you were the canary in the coal mine. You were out in the front calling this stuff out when everyone else was saying you were wearing a tinfoil hat and getting banned from Facebook and kicked off social media and all other things. Yesterday, this report came out that, they're half admitting it all, I think, Cara, saying that, they had 31 or 36, whatever the number is rambling around now. But they weren't actual undercover agents. They weren't tasked out of the field offices. So they were like randos that we knew, but we didn't really know them. And I hate to tell you, everyone, but Cara reported on this, a year and a half ago or something. So how do you feel today being vindicated on your reporting?
Well, it was actually 2.5 years ago. Shockingly, I put out a report on the Gateway Pundit reporting on one of these confidential human sources. And we knew at the Gateway Pundit and other places that there were confidential human sources there on January 6th. That's just common sense. Now they're admitting it right before Trump comes into office, because obviously all of this is going to come out in the next 4 years. I guess they're covering their own you-know-what. But, they're saying there were no quote-unquote FBI agents, but there are confidential human sources, which is basically the same thing, except they have less oversight and they could do more things like go inside the Capitol, break windows, and, assist people in getting in, which is, from what I understand, some of them did. Some of them actually went into the Capitol and they were instigating things. So it feels really good to be vindicated. I remember when I came out with that story, it was the summertime. I was sitting on the beach and I was terrified that I would get in trouble for actually telling the truth. We live in such a sad state of times and affairs that when you're a journalist reporting the truth and releasing whistleblower files, which I did at the time, exposing these confidential human sources, that you're going to get in trouble and possibly arrested. And it was a really scary time for me. And I remember speaking to you, John, on the phone and saying, should I put this out? Should I put this information out? A whistleblower gave it to me, and I did. And I was very scared, but I did it anyway. And it went viral all around the world. But the only people that didn't report on it was the mainstream media, of course. So now they're reporting on it. And, it's a vindication. And hopefully in the next 4 years, we'll find out more about what really happened on January 6th.
Yeah, well, I think you have already told the world what really happened. It just seems to be unfolding before our eyes day by day. And I really believe that, Trump's going to get somebody like Matt Gaetz, or maybe he's going to empower Kash Patel to really get to the bottom of it. And in my eyes, you don't need vindication, but I think you're going to be publicly vindicated as the person who had it right. And I know you were the first person also to report that another innocent woman was killed that day by the police, Metro Police, Roseanne Boylan. When you were reporting on it back then, everyone that was talking about it was saying that it didn't happen. And you even went undercover to get the officer's name because you found her shield number. So what's happening with that? Do you think Roseanne Boylan's going to get recognition? Do you think there'll be any justice for Ashley Babbitt's murderer?
100% think so, because I was really down in the dumps, I'd say about a year ago, when I just felt so frustrated. We were doing all this great reporting and we knew the truth and none of it was coming out. But I feel like none of us could have asked for more with President Trump getting in and with everything turning out the way it turned out. And I just feel like it's up from here. I always say at the end of my articles on the Gateway Pundit, in the end, God wins. And I do believe that to be the case. And I'm seeing it happening in real time ever since Trump got reelected, ever since he won that election on November 6th. I just see things moving in a really positive direction. And the truth always comes out. It's literally like if you drop a stone from outer space, it's eventually going to hit the ground. That's just the nature of physics. And I feel like truth is the same way. And when it comes to Roseanne Boyland, for a lot of people who don't know, and I think a lot of Rogers listeners do, but Roseanne Boyland was a woman who was killed on January 6th, not Ashley Babbitt. A second woman was killed that day, allegedly by police. And I released a report 3.5 years ago that the mainstream media has not touched, but I'm sure they'll touch it as breaking news in the coming months because that's what they do. We report on it on the Gateway Pundit and in the alternative media. Then years later, the mainstream media takes it and reports it as breaking news. But another woman was killed that day. There's video footage that I published. I was the first person to publish it with Gary McBride, another reporter, of Roseanne Boyland being beaten on Capitol stairs brutally by Lila Morris, police officer Lila Morris of the Metro Police, beating the brakes off her, hitting her to the head, hitting her to the body when she was blue in the face, bleeding, after she had been hit by a pepper ball by police at close range and basically gassed, and a bunch of people got pushed on top of her and she was crushed. And this was all, by the way, done by police. This has now been recognized by a lot of people in Congress. And I've heard off the record, and people have reassured me that if Trump got back in, and he did, that there will be people prosecuted for Roseanne Boyland's death. She was an innocent American woman. She was a peaceful protester. She was a Trump supporter. She was a beautiful person. She was just like you and me. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she was killed on January 6th. The government covered up her murder, and they said that she died of a drug overdose. They would not give her parents her autopsy report. They had to sue for it. And this is what they did to her. They really did her dirty. If you Google her name or look her up on Wikipedia, it will say that she died of a drug overdose on January 6th, and she did not. She was seen being beaten by Officer Lila Morris, and she died that day. And none of this stuff ever hit the mainstream media. And I could guarantee you, John, that it will come to light in the next couple of years, and they're going to report on it like it's something that they just found out, when we've known this for a very long time now.
Well, maybe you'll get a Pulitzer, Cara, for reporting it so early. But you certainly have done amazing work, and I see every day you are vindicated. I even thought you were crazy sometimes, and you can attest to that. Say, Cara, please. As you said before that you were kind of depressed and down because no one was going to talk about it and stuff. Do you feel better now?
I do. You have no idea how it feels to talk to these prisoners like Enrique Tarrio, like Jake Lang, like so many prisoners I speak to on a daily basis. And they're so desperate and they're in such dire straits. Sometimes they'll be talking to me literally from underneath their bed, trying to get reception on these pads that they give them to talk to people. Nowadays in jail, you get a pad. You don't use a phone like back in the day, from your cell. So it's another way to keep people further isolated and away from each other. But I speak to these prisoners all the time, and some of them have 22-year sentences, 20-year sentences. It's crazy. And there was a point where I just didn't know what to say to them anymore, about a year ago, where I just didn't know if there was good news in the future. Everything just looked so bad. They were really ramping up the January 6th persecutions. They were going after Trump really hard. This was just in the midst of all of his legal woes. And I just was like, I was in such a dark place because I just didn't know how to comfort these poor people that were calling me from jail. And it really hurt, to be quite honest. And the thought that someone like Enrique Tarrio, who was an innocent Proud Boy who was not there on January 6th, and who did nothing wrong, was going to stay in. What was that?
Enrique, even in D.C. I mean, me and you were at his trial.
And we could go into that shortly, but just thinking about somebody who loves life as much as he does, a young man in his early 40s or late 30s, was going to not get out of jail until he was a senior citizen for something he didn't do, really, really just made me so angry. And when Trump won that night, I wrote an article, you could check it out on the Gateway Pundit. Enrique was literally on the floor of his cell, listening underneath the door of his cell to the radio playing in the background of the election results coming in, just praying and praying and praying. And then he was hearing it coming in for Trump, and he literally fell asleep on the floor that night listening to them announce Trump, realizing that he was going to be pardoned, he was going to get out. So, God wins in the end, like I said, but Enrique Tarrio is such a case study. I really think President Trump needs to look into the case of Enrique Tarrio just to understand how diabolical the Biden regime is. They really, really went after Enrique Tarrio as a pseudo-Trump, because Trump wasn't there, obviously, at the Capitol, and neither was Enrique. So they really used him as an experiment and a way to be able to figure out how they would prosecute Trump with these novel legal theories the same ones they used on Enrique. So he was just an experiment for how they were going to get to Trump, and they successfully found him guilty with the jury, basically a very biased DC jury using very illegal, very novel legal theories to prosecute him and to find him guilty. So, that's something I think that really needs to be looked at by this new Department of Justice. Hopefully they do an internal study on what really happened with that trial and how that judge let that happen.
Yeah, I think I know that you've led a bunch of efforts to try to, get some committees together. I know you were on Marjorie Taylor Greene's committee just a couple of months ago, looking into the January 6th stuff and the Gulag conditions. And, it sure seems like at some point, you could never give a man his liberty back. But it sure seems like, that's an uplifting thing for Enrique and all those guys and women and their families. And I think everyone else who's on our side to say, wow, they were hostages the whole time. And, you and I have been down to Freedom Corner a number of times in D.C., and we've tried to use different platforms we have to bring light to stuff, but no one has done more than you. So, I'm hopeful that this nightmare of a disaster is over for everyone. And then, and only then, will your phone stop ringing 24 hours a day from federal correction facilities.
Yeah.
Yes. All hours, they'll stop calling you.
All hours I get these calls. And today I got a call from Belarus. Belarus is a country that is sandwiched between Ukraine and Russia, from a prisoner there who is the first person since Edward Snowden, and I think the only person that has actually gotten political asylum in that part of Eastern Europe by the president of Belarus. His name is. Go ahead.
Are you saying Belarus?
Belarus. Did I pronounce that wrong? Belarus.
Belarus. European country that was. I didn't know that one.
There's a January 6th who got political asylum in Belarus. He walked there from Ukraine. He took a flight to Ukraine, walked to Belarus, and the president of Belarus said he was a political prisoner and he was politically persecuted by Joe Biden, and gave him political asylum so that he could stay there. And he's been there for 3 years now, hasn't seen his young children. He has, I think, a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, and hasn't been able to see them. And didn't think he would probably see them for a very long time. But now he's looking at a pardon. He was nonviolent. And, I do believe he's going to get pardoned. So I'm not only getting calls from jails, but I'm getting calls from other countries and prisoners that are literally there seeking asylum from the Biden regime. It's crazy.
All right. Well, listen, you're like an international woman of mystery. You even getting calls from future prisoners or pardoned people from Belarus. That's nice. Cara, I want to shift gears a little bit with you. And, in the kind of post-mortem of the election and everything, a little earlier in my open, I was saying that, now there's Republicans complaining about some of Trump's picks and stuff. Shut up already, because 2 months ago, if someone said to most Republicans, Trump will win, but then he's going to be allowed to pick anyone he wants, including Mickey Mouse and Ronald McDonald, we would have all voted for that. Just get him in, and then we'll deal with the other stuff later. So I feel like Republicans should shut up and let Trump hire people he knows are loyal to him. I feel like last time he was new at the whole D.C. scene, and he trusted people like John Bolton and other swamp rats who came, back to bite him in many ways. So, number one, I feel like Trump should be allowed to have whoever he wants until they screw up and then talk about it. But for now, give him his team. But going back to the election, you actually broke the story. You made it viral. Your reporting from the Bronx was what inspired Donald Trump. He reshared your video, and that's what inspired him to be the first president in 40 years to do an appearance in Bronx, New York. It was your reporting, and the reporting was basically, I thought, the bulk of it outside of kind of bodegas and grocery stores in the Bronx, where people were talking about how high food prices were, how expensive groceries were. So you would think And I would say, my reporting with you, most of the time when we asked people, it was groceries and illegal immigration, AKA the border. Would you agree with me on that? Those are like the top two answers we were getting?
It started off that way for sure. Certainly those are kind of lead-in stuff that people really were frustrated with here in New York, which is really just migrant central. The entire city is just really crowded with migrants. And there's a lot of New Yorkers here that really harbor a lot of resentment, a lot of people that are from the neighborhoods that feel like the resources are being misdirected towards non-citizens, which is very understandable. It's really enraged a lot of people. And the cost of living, as you know, is atrocious here in New York. It's insane. You can't even get takeout food without spending $40, $50 for two people.
Believe me when I tell you, folks, Cara could eat. She may look lean and mean and knock you out, but she could eat. She's a solid eater.
No, it's crazy. If I order food for myself, it's $50. And, I'm not joking, but I feel really bad for people who live in these areas in the Bronx and in the city that are living on fixed incomes that really are just frustrated, and they still are. So I'm really hoping this next 4 years that really these food prices adjust themselves, and I'm sure they will because we have somebody like Trump in there who knows what he's doing, unlike Joe Biden. But I think what really crossed people over, and I did that report you mentioned in the Bronx in 2023, the year 2023, at the end of the year, it was the winter. Okay. And I was out there and everybody was telling me they were voting for Trump and nobody believed it. And nobody believed it. People thought I found these people. I cherry picked these people. I did not. I walked around the street with my microphone, my Newsmax mic, and I asked people who they were voting for. And they were all saying Trump in the Bronx. And, that was the first report of its kind. There was a lot of copy reports after that.
I couldn't believe it. So now putting that aside, your great work, which brought Trump to the Bronx, amazing. But you would think if you were running against Donald Trump, and most of the public perception is, groceries, economy, border, immigration, like food and border, right? You're a savvy political operative. You would probably focus your campaign on strategies to address, food and the border, right? Okay.
Well, that's what I would do, but that's not what obviously the Democrats did.
You're smart. You'd probably pick that up easily. Now, You'd be surprised, as I was, to hear what Tim Walz had to say about him and Kamala's strategy. So take a look at this clip, and then you tell me what you think.
And it might be true. Not enough focus was put on inflation and the costs that those brought to people. Understanding that immigration and border control does matter to people. It doesn't mean that you're cruel or you don't care. And I think that's something that, in the 90 days I was out there, we apparently didn't make that connection strongly enough because it was middle class folks in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. It was folks that were less than a college degree. These are folks that are working dang hard. I've always said that the hardest jobs I've ever did paid me the least amount of money. So there were folks that weren't voting for us would be the very folks that I care that our policies impact. And that disconnect was obvious in the results.
So he basically here. All right, how about I do the lead-ins and then you talk, and then I'll bring in the next clip. And I know we don't have earpieces, so we're having a little cross-talkage. But he's saying right here that, we admit it. We didn't focus enough on the economy and inflation and the border. How could they overlook that?
How could they overlook that? I mean, they're out of touch. These are two elitists from the most elite party. Now, the party of Hollywood, the party of the super rich, the party of the out of touch. Why would they ever care about regular Americans? And I'm being dead serious. Like, why would they care that people are upset, that people are suffering, as long as they have Beyonce and Oprah and all their celebrities like Eminem dancing with them on stage and putting on a big fake production? That's all they care about. All they cared about was Drag Queen Story Hour, young children being able to chop off their penises and, chop off their breasts. This is literally what Tim Walz stands for, as well as abortion. And you know what? The country doesn't care as much about abortion as I think that the Democrat Party assumes. And I can guarantee you that in the next election in 4 years, it's something they're not going to focus on as much because it was a really failed strategy. Most women in America obviously care about reproductive rights, but more so they care about the cost of living, their families, and just having a good life here in America, not abortion, abortion, abortion. People are sick of that topic. So that was what they were focused on because they're completely out of touch. They don't talk to regular everyday Americans. They talk to Hollywood elitists and amongst themselves, and they're just completely out of touch. And hopefully they stay that way because that will keep them out of office for a very long time. And I think that's what the best thing that can happen for America right now.
That is for sure. Great, poignant as always. So you're watching the Stone Zone. Don't be confused. I'm not Roger Stone. That is Cara Castronuova. We're filling in for Roger today, doing a little double duty. And we're going to continue here a little bit. I have Hunter Gayler is going to join from Wall Street Capital. We're talking about Trump's economy. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the war of words going on between Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. And Hunter's going to join in a bit to talk about that. But Cara, before I go to Hunter, and we both had experience with this clown, but I think one of the people everyone is very happy on our side to see gone from D.C. is Congressman Jamal Bowman. And if you remember, we experienced him with George Santos, and they were having some kind of crosswords, and we had a little fun at Jamal Bowman's expense. But in the aftermath, much like Tim Walz was lamenting, well, maybe we should have focused on the economy and maybe we should have focused on the border. Wait till you hear what ex-Congressman Jamal Bowman has to say about his fire alarm antics. Take a look.
Wish I didn't pull that damn fire alarm. You know what I'm saying?
A candid admission by Congressman Jamal Bowman about a moment that made him the butt of jokes and landed him in court, pulling an alarm in a House office building, despite there not being an emergency.
Do you think you'd be preparing for another term right now if it weren't for that fire alarm?
No, hell no. I mean, my district is a super pro-Israel district. The minute I called for a ceasefire, that was the last straw with many in the district. And I say last straw because, because I beat Elliot Engel, it was a target on my back from that community since then.
So Jamal, he said it. I wish I didn't pull that fire alarm. But he's full of crap, Cara, to be honest with you. I think if he didn't do it, he probably would have got reelected. What are your thoughts on this clown?
I mean, my thoughts are, the one thing that struck me about him when we met him outside of Congress, we met him out there, we were interviewing him, I believe, for Newsmax and Gateway Pundit, was he was just so married to the whole white supremacy, the whole white supremacy. He kept asking me, how could you be affiliated with white supremacy? You're a person of color or whatever. He said to me something like that. And I just think that's really out of touch. Again, like I keep using that word for Democrats, but most people in America are not concerned about white supremacy and they're not concerned with that narrative. And really, that's what I remember the interview I did. He was really just fixated on about, like, white supremacists and Republicans are like, don't condemn white supremacy. And he just kept talking about that stuff. And to me, that's just frustrating. When somebody starts that stuff, I just really feel like there's nothing more to say to them because they're really just sort of indoctrinated with this mindset. So that's my memory of him. He's not a congressman anymore. I'm interested to see what he's going to do moving forward and in the future. But at least he's being honest now, finally, about pulling that fire alarm. He was lying about that for a very long time.
I wish more people would be like that once in a while. But it's nice to see, Tim Walz admitting, well, we made a mistake there. And Jamal Bowman saying, yeah, I made a mistake there. So it looks like there's a lot of making up to do on their side.
What I want to see in closing, John, I want to see Kamala Harris say what a mistake she made and what a bad campaign she had, how much she lied to the American people and just basically was so smug the whole entire time. And just, her conduct, I feel, just disregarding the regular American people's pain in her campaign and, just really pandering to the celebrities is something I think she really needs to apologize to the women of America for, because she did a really bad job representing us. It was a terrible job, and I want an apology.
Got it. All right. Well, we'll see about that. There's no love lost at all, it seems, these days between Team Trump. As you know, Donald Trump just a month or so back said at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville, he said, when I get into office, I'm going to fire Gary Gensler, chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission. I'm going to fire him on day one. And the world at large said, Eureka, because this guy is a captured regulator who's done nothing but help all the big firms and screw all the retail investors. So Trump went after Gensler. He's announced his resignation when Trump's inaugurated. And then Elon Musk has been taking aim at Gary Gensler for some time now because the SEC is suing him for the way he was going to acquire Tesla, the way he was going to acquire X. And Elon actually fired off a message today on Twitter. I think we might even have it there. I'm not sure. But, fired off a message at Gensler like, oh, man, Gary, don't do this to me. And basically told him to cut the crap and make a settlement with him. So now you got Trump and Musk mad at you. And then J.D. Vance comes out and starts, unleashing on Gary Gensler for targeting Trump. And when DJT went public and other, and J.D. Vance had reminded him that he will not be in power forever. A little bit of an extended clip here, but you got to hear this. Take a listen. And then after this, we'll come back with Hunter Gieler and even maybe hopefully Carol hang around for a little more.
In 2016, you were the CFO of Hillary Clinton's failed presidential campaign. Is that correct?
I was proud to be chief financial officer to the Clinton campaign.
Great. Chairman Gensler, is it also correct that your current enforcement director, Gerber Grewal, was most recently the Attorney General of New Jersey? A yes or no answer will suffice.
He served his nation well, and he was Attorney General of New Jersey.
So just to recap, the Attorney General of New Jersey is the guy who refused to enforce immigration laws and cooperate with ICE. He also launched, I believe, 8 separate investigations against Donald Trump during his time as Attorney General. Chairman Gensler, is it also correct that your recently hired General Counsel, Megan Barbero, was previously Deputy General Counsel under Nancy Pelosi and litigated 2 impeachment hearings against Donald Trump?
I believe she was Deputy General Counsel of the House of Representatives.
Great. So, and I'll also note that one of your senior enforcement counsels is married to Peter Strzok. My point here, Mr. Gensler, is that you seem to have a very troubling pattern of hiring at an impartial regulatory agency a lot of people who seem to have a vendetta against the former president. And I fear and I worry that that has implicated itself and affected the policy at the SEC. Chairman Gensler, when did the SEC take its first enforcement action against a SPAC? Do you know the exact time?
Senator, we'd have to get back to you. I don't know what decade that was.
So according to my staff's research, September of 2021 is the first time that you guys at the SEC launched enforcement action against a SPAC. So I want to recap just a few things, and then I want to ask a question. First, you were Clinton's finance director in 2016, Hillary Clinton's finance director. Second, you hired anti-Trump enforcement director Grewal in July of 2021. Third, you brought in Ms. Barbero, who was the litigator on 2 House impeachment trials against Donald Trump. You have another enforcement counsel who is married to Peter Strzok. In November of 2021, Senator Warren urged you to investigate the SPAC merger involving Donald Trump's Truth Social company. And in December of 2021, just a few weeks later, you guys launched an investigation using a novel legal theory against the former president's social media company. That is some coincidence, isn't it, Mr. Gensler?
Senator, it is good to meet you in person, but I think you're not correct.
What was I not correct about there?
We follow the facts and the law wherever they are. And with regard to the SPAC field, the Special Purpose Acquisition Company field, There have been abuses, as you mentioned, one in 2018 that we found. And there are times that we do open investigations.
So the problem that I have, Chairman Gensler, is not with you investigating SPAC mergers. The problem is investigating a SPAC merger using a novel legal theory against your boss, Joe Biden's chief political rival. Also against a social media company, which, of course, at the time, Twitter and Facebook and every social media company had banned the former president. So you can make a pretty good argument that the SEC was using its enforcement powers to silence the chief political rival of the current president. Now, let me just offer another observation here. We are rightfully concerned in this chamber, at least on my side of the aisle, about the weaponization of the Department of Justice. But I'm increasingly worried that we should be more worried about the weaponization of the Securities and Exchange Commission. It looks more and more like not an impartial regulatory body protecting investors and consumers, but a regulatory body that it's using its power to silence and immiserate political rivals of the current president of the United States. I have just one final question on that, Chairman Gensler. Have you ever spoken to anyone at the White House about your investigation of Donald Trump's Truth Social?
Sir, I don't speak.
Yes or no?
I don't know, sir. I'm going to answer the question. I don't speak to the White House about anything in our enforcement group or our investigations.
So I'm mindful of. Thank you for the answer. I'm mindful of the time here, so let me just offer one final observation. I have little hope that I could persuade you that hiring committed partisans and using the regulatory powers of the SEC in a way that looks, and I think is, politically partisan is a true threat to American democracy. But maybe I can appeal to your sense of self-interest. If you guys use the SEC in such a politically motivated way, eventually you're going to be out of power. And I have to say, Chairman Gensler, turnabout is fair play. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ba-boom, as they say. And, I think Jeremiah Wright said a while back, the chickens are coming home to roost because, the SEC is going to have to turn over all that paperwork and all that good stuff. And Elon Musk is going to go in there and start cutting out all the fat. And I have a feeling we're going to find more and more evidence that Gary Gensler was carrying the water for the president of the United States and trying to suck every last freedom out of Donald Trump's life, even the freedom of speech when he was banned on every platform. But the SEC is captured, my friends. It's a captured regulatory agency. And to operate in it, you have to be a shark. You have to be slick, you have to be mean, you have to be lean, you have to be ready, and you got to be cashed up and ready to execute, especially when you're going against the market and the regulators. And one of my friends who's able to do that every single day, best in the business, best in breed, my buddy Hunter Gaylor joins us right now. He's with Spencer Pruitt, also has another firm, Wall Street Capital. There he is, the coolest cat on Wall Street. What's up, Hunter? How are you today?
Well, the market's closed, got a lot of green on the screen. So, I'm just glad that Gensler's on his way out and we hopefully get the new guy in. If it's Atkins gets in there, we get some real innovation, get rid of this bureaucracy and red tape and actually start making some real money in America again.
No doubt about that. And I know you've been making plenty of money with many of your great portfolio companies and stuff. And, even though he looks all cool and he's a conservative, he went to Harvard, so he knows what he's doing, this cat right here. But Hunter, yeah, I heard that stuff going there with J.D. Vance. And, you see what's going on lately where you have Elon Musk kind of slugging it out in the public square with Gary Gensler. I've been a big supporter of, trade settlement enforcement and getting these naked shorts out of the market. We know they've been picking on DJT stock since before it went public, what we know now. What do you think about a change of regime at the SEC and getting this Gary Green scam Gensler out of there?
He's got to go. I mean, listen, America was built on the free market enterprise. And so, you got these rough and tumble guys on Wall Street and, we look to the rules of the SEC. Even Elon Musk came out the other day, and it was 7 minutes ago on Axios, there was an article I was just reading where Elon's pissed about how they're trying to target him. And why are they targeting him? Oh, what was your private holdings with Twitter, before you did the purchase? I mean, they're just trying to weaponize everything. So if we don't get in there and clean it up fast, so we can put some, quote, drill baby drill, pour some gasoline onto this fire. If we don't clean this stuff up, it's just going to hurt the markets. And I know you're a big advocate, just like I am, and we have a lot of conversations about this. And that's the whole concept of the short selling and the naked short selling. We need real police. And if they're going to police, they need to do their job and not be a mouthpiece or a weapon of the Democratic Party. So that's my thoughts on it.
No question about that. Back in the day, Paul Atkins was against some things that have led to payment for order flow and complicating the markets, and new SEC chair. He's been an advocate, and I've watched a lot of his stuff to keep an eye on short selling, particularly manipulative. But he's also been an advocate to not complicate the markets. He's like a kind of I would not speaking from, but kind of like a libertarian that kind of wants to go with the old, invisible hand thing. Let the market find its level. And I think there's a lot of small companies out there who the SEC enforces their tail off, and they can't afford even to keep up with these audits and stuff. And I feel like going forward, hopefully they'll leave the smaller firms alone, let them access capital and form capital, and then turn their sights on enforcing the big boys, because they let the big boys get away with murder because they're hoping to get a job with them in 4 or 5 years. You think we could see some, trade settlement enforcement, some ease of IPO, access to capital in a new administration?
I think under Trump, yes. I think he's got the ear of some very strong people. I know there's a lot of people at the American First Policy Institute. I know he's got some people going into the Treasury Department that I know are in that whole school of Larry Kudlow and my colleague Stephen Moore that are of that kind of free market, Milton Friedman-esque, which is, hey, just let the market decide. Let the free market take over. The problem with Gary Gensler, and I've said this, Gensler's an idiot. He's been leading the U.S. government's crackdown on crypto. And that is what's driving the price of Bitcoin. You and I talked about this the other day, John. What ended up happening is, look, it broke 100. So it's because they don't trust the government, because the government puts all this bureaucratic red tape, all these rules. If you had to understand how big my accounting department is and my legal department just to be able to go through the investments of some of our portfolio holdings, this is why I have gray hair at 34, because I'm trying to deal with understanding the government. I should have just run for Congress, get elected, and then ask Nancy Pelosi, hey, Nancy, how do we make some real money here? Oh, that's okay. Yeah. We're just going to trade. We're going to get with these people. That's the level of corruption that we're seeing never before. But I will tell you, this is not a plug for anything, but I do use Autopilot that tracks Nancy Pelosi's trades. I'm up 59%.
Trading exactly what Nancy Pelosi trades. I like that one. All right, you might have to give me tips on that one. I'm not a financial advisor. But Hunter, we got about 3 minutes left before Kara's going to barge back in and take over the show again. But no, I'm kidding. Kara and I got one last thing to talk about. But, I was excited the other night. We were down at Mar-a-Lago, and there was some really cool folks down there talking about all the forward promise in the Drill Baby Drill initiatives. And I know one of your portfolio companies and one that I'm interested in was down there talking to some folks about, we're going to drill again. The price is going to come down, but we're going to produce more. And somebody said something interesting. I think it was the CEO of one of your companies or something. He said, all the companies that buy oil from us have to come get it in trucks that need oil from us. So it's like a self-perpetuating cycle, and that all gets passed down the logistics food chain to lower costs. So tell me, folks, about that company. I think that's entrepreneurial, and they know the SEC was trying to make it harder for oil and gas companies to raise money, access to capital. So what do you see the most promising there? We got about 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, real quick. My investment ethos of my firm, and we built a multinational corporation. my investment ethos, and for anybody that's watching, is everything that the government sucks at, we invest in. Oil and gas, cybersecurity, AI, healthcare, anything that's helping our veterans, even border security, with new drone technology. But with this particular company, with Trump coming in, it's drill, baby, drill. So the company, one of our portfolio companies is that we're working very closely with is Pythias Energy. And, what's really great about it is what most people don't understand is this is a renewable resource. This is not some scarce resource. Oil is a renewable resource. It powers the globe. It powers everything. So this Green New Deal push, everything, I'm just so thankful that Trump's coming back in, because this is the real American energy. This is the real deal that's going to drive our economy. That's going to be lower gas prices, and it's going to allow us to increase our investments. I'm a business guy, so I look at returns. And the thing I like about the oil and gas business is under Trump, it's going to literally go boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, no, I see it. I know those federal land leases are going to go good. I know he's got Burgum in there and the Department of the Interior. I know we're going to be drilling on federal lands. The country's going to gain a lot of revenue from that stuff. And
it's refining. It's national security. Biden depleted our resources. Obama did the same thing. So this is a strategic play for the United States. If we focus on oil and gas, we focus on reinvigorating the environment to get people in. Like I said, I'm a millennial in the finance world, but we're looking at oil and gas. People aren't going to colleges anymore to do this.
Not all millennials are tree-hugging, crispy kale-eating liberals. This guy's got red hats. He's got red everything, but never lets me down. Buddy, Roger, I was supposed to be Roger's guest and talking about some of this stuff, and then he asked me last minute if I could come in, so then I brought you in, and last minute, lickety-split, excellent stuff. My buddy, Hunter Gaylor, from Spencer Pruitt, one of the best. Thank you.
Always best, John, for you and Roger. That's the Stone Zone, man.
Thank you very much, Hunter Gaylor. All right. So nice. We do it twice. No, we don't bring Cara Castronuova in once. We cut away, but then we come back. And I'm hoping that she's going to come back, but you never know. She's a busy woman. But look, while we're waiting for Cara, there was one funny video I wanted to. There she is. Cara, really quick, I just want to read this off because I found it interesting. We don't even have to talk about it. I want to get to this one last thing. But so out of all these pardons that Biden's delving out here, he's granted clemency to Rita Kundwell. She was a municipal comptroller who embezzled $54 million in the largest municipal fraud scheme in American history. Take a quick look at this.
New at 4, President Biden's decision to grant clemency to nearly 1,500 people is the largest act of clemency by any president. It's being met with anger and frustration, though, in Dixon, Illinois.
That's because Rita Kundwell's name is on the list. She pled guilty to stealing $54 million from taxpayers in the largest municipal heist in U.S. history.
We're not taking any questions.
Do you have anything you want to say to the people of Dixon?
Rita Kundwell was a humble public servant by day, but lived large in almost every other part of her life. A 20-year fraud on her hometown of Dixon, Illinois, that totaled $54 million.
Don't you think you owe the people of Dixon an apology, Rita?
Now, another gut punch for the people of Dixon. Kundwell's name is on a list of 1,500 people granted clemency, meaning her punishment is over.
We're just shocked, outraged. As a community, we feel betrayed by the justice system, by the president.
Danny Langloss was Dixon's police chief when Kundwell's crime was exposed.
Pretty crazy, right, Cara? I mean, I hear like a white-collar crime, nonviolent and stuff, but I don't know, man. When you're stealing from the very people you were elected to kind of be a steward, that's pretty smelly.
That would make sense that Biden would obviously pardon her because allegedly that's some of the things that people think his family did. So,
no doubt about it. But all right, on the way out, Cara, I want to thank you so much. People can follow her at Cara Castronuova on Twitter, one of the best Twitter feeds around, Cara Castronuova on Instagram. Go, hit the gram and do the DM and all that, millennial talk or whatever. But follow her everywhere. And Cara, one quick note. Jill Biden was wishing people a happy holiday. Take a look at this quick.
Hello. How are you? Hi. Happy holidays. Hi. Happy Christmas. Yes.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?